Yeah.
So if I gave you this equation, first of all, would you know it's a quadratic?
Yes.
How would you know it's a quadratic?
Because of the
X squared, right? There's no higher exponents than just squared, but there's an X squared in it, so we know it's quadratic, right? If I said to you, solve this by graphing, would you know what to do?
Yeah.
What would you do?
Plug it in.
Yeah, you plug it in the calculator, right? Okay.
Kilometer for Terminator.
So on my calculator, I hit tab so I can get my enter line to come up. And I would say x squared plus 5x minus 6. That's what the graph looks like. So I would need to transfer the graph to my paper. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoop. You're going to do a better job than I just did, right?
Probably not.
One there and one there. I could do a way better job because I could get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. But this section isn't about graphing quadratics, so we're not going to really focus too much on getting exactly perfect graph because we're just trying to solve it by graphing, right? We're not trying to learn how to graph a quadratic. So where's the solutions?
That the X, or yeah, the X-Intercepts.
The X-Intercepts are the solutions. What are the X-Intercepts? What is this?
Negative 6.
That is 6? That's how we write an X-Intercept?
X equals negative 6.
How about negative 6, 0? Is an X-Intercept a point?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so what's this one?
That's 1 or 0, 1. Oh,
No,
it's
1,
oh,
0.
1, 0. Right? Need to go back to 7th grade graphing points.
You know, you're probably right.
6th grade? I don't remember where it is now.
I need to go back to 3rd grade.
Early. Okay.
I'm just going to go back
I've
to
got 2 places where it crosses the axis, and I wrote the name of the 2 points that it crossed the axis at. Now I need my solutions. What are my solutions?
6 and negative 1.
Other way.
Negative 6 and 1.
Negative 6 and 1. Now, some people like to write x equals negative 6, x equals 1. And I say, okay,
I thought you said yesterday that you have to like.
we'll get there in just a second. Fair? Okay. It crosses at negative 6 as it crosses at 1. You okay with that? But, guys, is that the only way to solve this quadratic?
Nope.
No? How else do you know how to solve that quadratic? Now, we solved it by graphing because I specifically told you the directions were solved by graphing, right? How else could we solve that? Yeah, we could factor it, couldn't we? Y equals x squared plus 5x minus 6. Can we factor it in that form?
Yes.
Yeah. Most of the time it's not going to be y equals, though, if we want to factor it. What is it going to equal? 0, right? It's going to equal 0. So if we factor it in this form, that's nice because the leading coefficient's 1, so we can do our shortcut, right? What multiplies to be negative 6 and adds to be 5?
3, negative 3, negative 2.
Try again.
Negative 3 and 2.
Try again.
2 and 3.
Try again.
Oh, 2 and 3. Negative 2 and 3. Right?
No.
Wait, what? I don't know.
What multiplies to be negative 6 and adds to be positive 5?
Negative 3, negative 2. No, 1
Negative
and 6.
1 plus
Okay,
6.
time out, time out. Let me remind you that we just did this exact problem,
Oh,
and
negative
these
1 and
were
6.
the answers that we got.
Negative 1 and 6.
Okay.
6 and 1.
I don't
So,
Like what? Adds to be
listen to me,
5.
listen to me. I want you to tell me what multiplies to be negative 6 and adds to be positive 5.
Negative 1 and 6.
Negative,
6 and... I'm so confused now.
negative 1 and 6. Doesn't have anything to do with 2 and 3. I agree with you that 2 times 3 is 6. I agree with you there. Okay? And we can do some sort of combinations to get some sort of numbers, but no combinations of 2 and 3 will give us a negative 6 and a positive 5. Right?
Right.
Okay. Now, this answers your question that you asked me just a second ago. What did I just do?
Factor.
I just factored. if I have the factors, how do I find the solutions? Yeah, don't they equal 0 right now? So I have to say x minus 1 equals 0 and x plus 6 equals 0. When I add 1 to both sides, I get x equals 1. Oh yeah, just like this one. When I subtract 6 from both sides, I get x equals negative 6, just like this one. Okay? These are our solutions. These are our factors. Our factors are going to be kind of opposite signs of what our solutions are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay? You okay with that? So if I said to you, solve by graphing, could you do it?
Yeah.
If I said to you, solve by factoring, could you do it?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to take a step back real quick and talk about graphing real quick. Okay? Let's say I put it in my calculator and it looks like this. Where am I supposed to be looking on my graph for my solutions?
There are none.
Answer my question first, please.
The X.
The X-Intercepts. Okay? How many solutions does this have? Who said that? No what? No real solutions. There are solutions. We know by the fundamental theorem of algebra how many solutions are there. 2 or 1, right? At most 2. But this does not appear to cross the x-axis at all. That doesn't mean there are no solutions. That means there are no real solutions. I know right now that doesn't make a difference to you, but it will soon. Okay? The other thing we need to talk about here is, what if this was my problem? And I said solve by graphing. If I put it into my graph, excuse me, in my calculator, that's what I get. Yeah, but fundamental theorem of algebra says I'm supposed to have 2, right? Mostly 2. It appears that there's only 1, isn't there? But really, how many are there? Can I prove to you that there are 2? What if I factored this? What multiplies to be 4 and adds to be 4? Positive 2 and 2? Yeah, or just 2 and 2, right? Okay. X plus 2, X plus 2, right? Positive 2 and negative 2 don't work, because that multiplies to be negative 4 and adds to be 0, right? But what happens when I set each of these equal to 0? X equals negative 2, X equals negative 2. How many solutions do I have?
2.
I have 2 solutions. It's just the same one, right? That's when my vertex is sitting right on the axis. Does that make sense? This has a specific name. It's called a double root. I got 2 answers. It's just that those 2 answers are the same. So it looks like there's only 1 answer. Does that make sense? I still got 2 answers, so I'm still fitting with the fundamental theorem of algebra that says my degree is my number of solutions, right? That's why I said 2 or 1 a minute ago. I didn't mean to confuse you by that. I apologize. Okay? Because it looks like, how many solutions did we get? It looks like we got 1, because all it does cross the x-axis is 1 time. Okay? It can cross the x-axis 2 times, 1 times, or no times. But regardless, I'm always going to have 2 solutions. In this case, I have a double root, just the same solution twice. In this case, I have no real solutions, but I do have 2 solutions. And like I told you earlier, we're just not there yet. That's a little bit of foreshadowing. Dun, dun, dun. Okay? You okay with that? So you have 2 directions on your homework so far that I've showed you. Solve by graphing and solve by factoring. Can you handle both of those? Okay. The last set of directions, which appears to be the easiest, has so far not been. Okay? If I start with this, that's supposed to be a minus sign. Pretend that's a minus sign. If I start with this and ask you to solve it, how would you go about doing that? missing in this problem?
Or X.
An X term, right? Well, some people don't like that. I like it because I think it makes it easier. We actually have 2 different ways, or 14 different ways, I don't know, somewhere in between 2 and 14 different ways we can actually solve this problem. Okay? Number 1, we could graph it, but those aren't your directions. Number 2, we could factor it, couldn't we?
Yes.
Isn't that the difference of squares?
Yes.
So I could factor it and get at that, but that's not our directions. So let's try following directions. The directions say solve using square roots. So how about if I add 25 to both sides to isolate my x squared term? I'm isolating the term that's squared. You got that? So then I get x squared equals 25, right?
Square root both sides.
Okay, if we square root both sides, then x equals what?
5.
That's what I was afraid you would say.
-5.
Which one?
Both.
Yeah. Right? It has to be both, doesn't it?
Oh.
People forget that all the time. I don't want you to be one of those people. So I'm going to show you 3 different reasons why it has to be plus or minus 5. Okay? Reason number 1. Reason number 1. If I graphed this, wouldn't it cross in 2 places? Like this? At 5 and negative 5? 5 and negative 5? So I got to have both of them, right? Thinking transformationally, isn't this just the parent function that shifted down 25? That's all it is, right? So you know it's going to cross the x-axis twice, and it's going to cross at negative 5 and positive 5. Way number 2 that you have to know this. What if I factored this? That's the difference of squares. How do I factor the difference of squares? Don't I get 2 binomials? What's my first binomial? X minus 5. My second binomial? X plus 5. When I set each one of these equal to 0, don't I get x equals 5 and x equals negative 5?
Yeah.
Okay? And the third way, which is probably the most important, is because I said. Because I said you have to get positive and negative when you take the square root. Okay? Here's the deal, guys. If I said to you, if this is what I gave you, that was what is given to you as the problem, what is the answer to that? 5. Okay? If I said, what's the square root of 25? The answer is 5. Who put that square root sign into the problem? The problem did, right? They did. Whoever they is. You know, we talk about they all the time, right? Whoever they is, they put the square root sign into the problem. But if we get here, x squared equals 25, who put this root sign into the problem?
We did.
We did. If we put the square root sign into the problem, we have to remember the plus or minus. But these are also 2 very good ways to remember that you have to have the plus or minus. 2 good reasons, kind of. Does that make sense? But I like mine the best. It's because I said.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're teaching us.
Thank you. Okay? So what do I do when I get here? Am I done?
No, you're not.
Yes.
What should I do?
Check it.
Could you check it?
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 squared?
25.
25 minus 25.
0.
'Cause that's right as far as I know, right? Negative 5 squared.
25.
25 minus 25?
0.
Okay, so here's what I want you to be careful of. Like, careful, 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 careful of. If I add a page that's a calculator, and I say negative 5 squared, it says the answer is negative 25. Is the calculator wrong?
No.
Or was the user wrong? The calculator is only as smart as its user. What I told the calculator to do was take the 5 and square it and then multiply by a negative. Whether or not that's what I intended to do, that's what I did.
Would you put it in?
Yes, you have to if you're going to do it that way. Okay? I want the whole negative 5 to be what's squared. And when I do the whole negative 5 squared,
Dun, dun.
then it shows me the answer is 25. Okay? Now, we are juniors and seniors in high school, and by we, I mean not me. Okay? I mean you guys are juniors and seniors in high school. I'm thinking that by now you should be able to square a negative number and know you're going to get a positive number, right? I need you to not rely so much on this thing because it is only as smart as you are, which some of you means it's really super smart, and some of you means you're still learning.
I like the way you put that.
Thank you. Okay? You okay so far on graphing, solving with square roots, and solving by factoring? Okay, so here's what I want to make sure of. When we're solving by square roots, there's some things that can trick you. Can I stop those things from happening? X minus 4 squared. How about plus 5 equals 14?
I put 15.
No, it won't work if it's 15.
What are you doing?
Minus 5.
Wait, you want to minus 5 first? Okay, so if we minus 5 first, I get
9.
x minus 4 squared equals 9. So now I FOIL this out, I distribute it out. Now this is where you're supposed to argue with me and say, no, Mrs. Kingston, you should just square root it. Okay? Am I allowed to square root this?
Yeah.
Is it something that's being squared? So can I square root it? But they were freaking out earlier because it's not just an x by itself. So this is where you say, so?
It's a whole problem.
It's a whole problem, right? This whole thing is being squared. That's still okay. Okay? When I square root both sides here, which is what I should do, it's just x minus 4. That's exactly correct. And what about the right-hand side of the equation?
Plus or minus 3?
Plus or minus 3, right? You're going to forget it, and I can't let you. So I'm going to argue with you every time. Okay? Now, you have a couple choices here, depending on what your need is. Okay? You guys know I'm a visual person. I got to see it. Okay? So what I do is I say x minus 4 equals 3, x minus 4 equals negative 3. Because I'm not there yet. Because sometimes visual people need to see both equations. Okay? What she's asking me is, couldn't I just add 4 right here? Well, yes, I can. That's another way to do it. And some people don't have any problem seeing that this is saying 3 plus 4, which is 7, and negative 3 plus 4, which is what? 1. Some people have no problems with that at all. Some people do. And some people need to see both equations. So that's why I wanted to show you both ways. Okay? So here, if I would add 4, oh look, I'm going to get exactly the same answers. 7 and 1. But like I said, some people need to see the separate equations, and some people can do it straight from here. You okay with that?
Yes.
So, like, some people need this, just this part right here, and some people need this bottom part to get to the same answers. Does that make sense? Okay, so don't let yourself be fooled on that. The last thing that you're going to have to do, well, there's a word problem, which is fine. It's about skydiving, which is something I want to do before I die, actually. Depending on the situation, it might be like right before I die, so hopefully not, but you know, yeah. So the other thing you're going to have to do is problem number 10 on your homework, and it says, which equations have roots that are equivalent to the x-intercepts of the graph shown? And what you're given is you are given a graph that's, it's just a parabola, right? And it says, here's an x-intercept and here's an x-intercept. My question to you is this. How many possible parabolas can go through those two x-intercepts?
4.
4. Okay, so one of them might look like this. Pretend that they actually went through the intercepts. Okay? And one of them looks like this. Right?
Yes.
And what do the other two look like? Oh, no, we're just dealing with functional parabolas today, remember? Only opening up or down. Is that a parabola?
No.
If it's wavy, is that a parabola? No. So what about this parabola? What about this parabola?
I don't know. It looks like
It's an alien.
I was
You're an alien. What about this parabola?
Oh, there's infinite.
And what about this parabola?
Oh, shrink and stretch.
And what about this parabola?
Looks like not that one.
Infinite.
Looks like a fish person.
You look like a fish person.
I am a fish person. How do you know?
How do you know?
So how many different parabolas are there to choose from?
At least
A
3.
lot, right? And so what happens on number 10 is it gives you the graph and says which one of these given equations also has these x-intercepts. So the problem in the past has been people like did A, like they put A into the calculator to see if it crosses at those places, and they're like, yep, that one works, I'll go to problem number 11. You have to do all of them. There's only 5, and you can definitely use your calculator to see if that works. Okay, so please don't just get one and make sure and know that works and skip it and go to the next problem. Okay, do you have any questions about your homework tonight? If you do, what can you do? Ask. Okay,
Answer key. Come to
all
tutorials.
answer keys up. Tutorials, you can absolutely come.
Ask a friend.
Friends, if you have a friend, you can ask a friend. That would be good.
Rewatch the video.
Rewatching the video would also help.
Best friend.
You guys are coming up with some great things to do, okay? Any other questions?
No.
What is today? I can't remember what today is.
The test.